Hi, everyone. I hope that we had an awesome Halloween. I hope we're not too hungover. I don't know if you're 21. I take it back. You're not hungover. Today, we're going to be going over Chapter 8. And Chapter 8 is on developing and maintaining relationships. So this is a really theory-heavy chapter. So make sure you read the textbook for this chapter. Make sure you understand those theories. We're going to see a lot of them popping up for around the final. There are probably going to be some on a quiz. But let's make sure that we have these theories on lock. So the chapter outcomes for Chapter 8 are to explain key aspects of interpersonal relationships, describe why we form relationships, list ways that we manage relationship dynamics, and to describe the factors that influence self-disclosure, and outline the predictable stages of most relationships. And obviously, no relationship is black and white, but there are stages that relationships go through, and they usually pretty closely align to this theory. So interpersonal communication for our classes is going to be the exchange of verbal and nonverbal messages between people who build relationships, share meanings, and accomplish social goals. A relational network. So a relational network is a web of relationship that connects individuals to one another. So when I think of a relational network, I think of all your friends on Facebook, or think of all of your, when you go to a friend's profile and you see all your mutual friends, that's what I think of when I think of a web. So there are all of the people that you know, or all the connections that you have, and then all the people they know, and it branches out. But it's just basically the people that you have relationship with, the people that we all know, the people that connect us. Family relationships. So family relationships is going to be a small social group bound by ties of blood, civil contract, and a commitment to care for and be responsible for one another, often in a shared household, but not always. And then friendships are going to be close and caring relationships between two people perceived as mutually satisfying and beneficial. These types of relationships often offer emotional support and companionship. They're the people that you go to when you need advice. They're the people that you go to in times of need if you don't go to your family. But this is typically different than family, because typically we see family relationships, connection through blood or through marriage or those kinds of relationships. Social relationships. The text defines social relationships as relationships that are functional within a specific context. They're less legitimate than friendships, and they can become awkward when one partner assumes too much intimacy, like when you think you're closer than you actually are. When I think of these social relationships, I think of the people in your classes, or I think of like your coworkers, and you overshare with your coworkers. You're not like super close friends, or you might be, but like at the beginning, when you're just in relationship because you're proximal, you're close to each other, and sometimes we overshare in those relationships and they become sticky and awkward. Romantic relationships. So love is going to be a deep affection for an attachment to another person. There are 6 categories of love. I'll just go over them pretty quickly. I think your textbook goes over them, so make sure you know them. Eros is that like big romantic passionate love, and this type of relationship, love is the most important thing. It's spontaneous and exciting and passionate, really, really passionate. Ludus is like the game playing kind of love, or uncommitted kind of love, like you're playing a game with the other person. This is a person who pursues ludic love may have like many conquests, but like really remain uncommitted. So when I think of ludus love, I really think of like dating app kind of love. Not to say that's true for everybody. Storge is a slow developing friendship-based love. People with this type of love tend to participate in activities together or be friends first. This may be a kind of love that doesn't really start out really intimate or passionate, but develops over time. Pragma is the really pragmatic, practical, mutually beneficial relationship. It may be somewhat described as unromantic, and it's sometimes described as shopping list love. Like, the kind of love where you have a checklist, like you want them to make 6 figures, you want them to, I don't know, like they don't have any red flags, they hit everything on your list, they spend 3 months salary on your ring, and they have no female friends, or I don't know, whatever's on your shopping list, whatever you're looking for. And then mania is an obsessive or possessive type of love. It can be jealous, it can be extreme. And a person that loves like this is much likely to do something crazy or silly like stalking. I guess that feels a little intense, but that's the example that they gave. But yeah, so mania is like the extreme crazy kind of love. It's different than luda because mania is really obsessive and possessive, but mania really focuses on like the passionate, exciting, like Cupid kind of love. And then agape is all giving love, not concerned with the self only of the partner, or with people needing compassion. And it's said to be relatively rare, but it's really just like unconditional, not self-serving love. So unselfish love, love in its purest form. And then intimacy for our class is going to be closeness and understanding of a relational partner. Online relationships. So the book talks about social information processing theory. And social information processing theory really explains how individuals use computer-mediated communication to develop deep impressions or deep interpersonal relationships to advance relational communication over time. So how we use social media to develop relationships over time and how relationships can stem from social media in those ways. Hyper-personal communication is online communication that is even more personal and intimate than face-to-face communication. So it's more in-depth, it's more, it's just deeper. We're gonna go deeper. Final answer, deeper. Why we form relationships. We form relationships because of proximity, because we're close to people, because we find attractive qualities in that person, whether that's honesty or physical attractiveness. We are attracted to people when we are more similar to them. We form relationships when we have personal and social needs, when we look for companionship because we don't want to be alone, we look for inclusion, we look for mental or physical stimulation, and we look for meeting goals. So if there's someone that can help us achieve our goals, if there's someone that can provide resources to us, these are kinds of the reasons we engage in relationship. Cost and reward. So there's big theory on cost and reward in managing relationship dynamics, basically all explained by social exchange theory. And social exchange theory really balances the advantages and disadvantages of a relationship. So you have the costs and the rewards. And the theory basically describes that we don't engage in relationships where the costs are higher than the rewards, or we choose to remove ourselves from relationships where the costs are higher than the rewards. So we can see rewards like extrinsic, external advantages, instrumental, shared resources, or intrinsic, personal satisfaction if someone makes you feel good about yourself. But we also see that in the costs. We also see costs. We see costs like literally spending our physical money, or sometimes people are just so emotionally draining we can't do it anymore, or sometimes they engage in gossip about us that hurts our feelings. So we weigh, social exchange theory basically says we weigh all those theories or all these costs and rewards against each other. And if the rewards are greater than the costs, then we're more likely to engage in those relationships. All right, reducing uncertainty reduction theory. So uncertainty reduction theory basically explains when initially meeting, people wish to decrease uncertainty about each other. And we do this through communicating and exchanging information about ourselves. So passive strategies involve sitting and observing and analyzing somebody else's interactions with others. But active strategies involve seeking information from a third party. So like, I don't know, if you meet this guy at a party and you have a mutual friend, going to the mutual friend and being like, hey, like, tell me about this guy. What does he do? Like, does he meet the needs on my checklist? And then interactive strategies involve asking the person directly, asking them themselves, and talking to them about things they're interested in or what similarities you might have. And typically we see human anxiety go down, or we see people's anxiety go down when we have more familiarity with the person and they're not so new. All right, self-disclosure and interpersonal relationships. So social penetration theory, SPT, it basically explains how relationships move from superficial levels to greater intimacy. When I think of this, I always show the clip, ogres are like onions. Ogres are like onions. You have to peel back to get to like the meat of the person or the meat of them. So like there's a breadth of things that we know, and they're all very superficial, but as we get deeper, that's when we really achieve intimacy. That's when we really, really know a person. So here's our onion, And then we see the depth and we see the breadth. So the breadth is the superficial, basic things we know about a person, like where we went to the school or what their favorite color is. And then the depth is like the meaningful stuff, the stuff that shaped them into who they are, the things that make them uncomfortable and how to love them best. Communication privacy management theory, so CPM, people believe they own information about themselves and make decisions whether or not they want to disclose, so share that information or protect it. And boundary turbulence is a threat to privacy boundaries. So like when somebody discloses information about us that we didn't want disclosed, like if you tell someone a secret about who you hooked up with last weekend, or if someone tells a secret about your childhood that you didn't want exposed, that would be boundary turbulence. That would be a threat to privacy boundaries that you've put up around yourself. Because the way we view privacy and the way we view information about ourselves, it's all private until we've chose to disclose it. So that's communication privacy management theory. And then strategic topic avoidance, it's really just navigating and maneuvering around the conversation away from undesirable topics because of embarrassment, vulnerability, or relational decline. And relational decline typically happens when we overshare with someone we don't know very well, and then it gets weird because you're like, oh, you probably should have known that about me. Like, you probably should have known that I sleep with a nightlight at, I don't know, 30 years old. I'm not 30, but I also don't sleep with a nightlight. But we see these things when we're oversharing. Okay, and then the stages of the relationship. So we're going to go through the lower to higher levels of intimacy through the stages, starting with initiation, exploration, intensification, stability, declining, termination, which either leads to repair or reconciliation. So initiating. The initiating stage is really simple. It's really just when we make contact with another person. A lot of relationships don't really move beyond this stage. And then the exploratory stage, when we really seek relatively superficial information, we're reducing our own uncertainty about the person. We're really just trying to get to know them and understand why they are the way they are, what their favorite color is, where they went to school, what their favorite food is, things like that. And then we see the intensification stage. So personal self-disclosure, where we really are starting to disclose things about ourselves that were private, where we start to share affection verbally and tell the other person how we feel, or even like develop pet names like, hey babe, hey honey, darling, if you use any of those pet names, that's when those really start to develop. Then we hit the stable stage, which is where the relationship is no longer volatile or temporary. And we have integrating or becoming one, where we really become involved in each other's lives, where you see them every day, where they're part of your routine, where we are bonding by sharing public messages about the relationship, whether that's posting on social media or showing up to a family party holding hands. You are communicating something about the intimacy or the seriousness of your relationship in those ways. And then we have the declining stage. We have an uncertainty event, so something bad might happen, like, I don't know, a partner was flirting with somebody else at a party and someone starts to get upset, or there's interference, or there's unmet expectations about the relationship. Like, I expect you to open my car door for me every day, or, just like unmet expectations. And then we either go to the repair stage and do repair tactics, where we really mediate that conflict and have conversations about how we can change. Or we go to the termination stage, which usually takes place in two ways. The passing away, where the relationship gradually fades and you start to talk less and less, or you're less ingrained in each other's lives. Or the sudden death, where there's an abrupt, unexpected termination, at least for one partner, and you just don't talk to each other anymore. That is the sudden death. Arguably, sudden death is tougher because it just happens all at once and you no longer have access to that person. And then we see reconciliation, which may or may not happen, but reconciliation can look like a lot of different things. It can look like a spontaneous development where a new truth came out and it all makes sense now, or a third-party mediation where you meet with the other person, you have a third party and you try to talk it out, mutual interaction, closure, where you try to get closure, or you just avoid the person altogether and don't seek reconciliation. But those are the pretty common stages of relationship. Your relationship might not go through all of them, but it more likely than not will go through a few of them, especially the beginning, intensifying, so on and so forth. And that is all we have for today. I've been told that I talk too fast, And if I talk too fast, be sure to let me know so that way you don't have to keep pausing and going to take notes. Usually in class, I give students the freedom to absolutely call me out if I'm speaking too quickly. Let me know if I do, shoot me an email. And I hope that you guys have a great day recovering from your not hangovers from your not hangovers. And I hope you guys have a great weekend watching football. If you are playing on fantasy, I hope you win all your games, and I will see you next weekend. Oh, by the way, you have a paper due in 2 weeks. I will send that out in the titanium announcement. But all that to say, I hope you're having a good one. Bye.